So another example of this in my life is if a guy is being really aggressive with me. Guys get really sort of, I call it baboon-like with each other. Like, yeah, they want to puff themselves up. If I see the little kid in there that's scared and wounded, I don't get as triggered. Whereas if I don't see that, if I'm loving between the lines, or maybe reading between the lines of this guy who's acting like an asshole, right? And if I just see him as being a vulnerable little boy who doesn't know what to do, I don't react as much. And that gives me, then I can respond. That gives me many, many more choices. Where if I get triggered, he gets triggered, I get triggered, then we get into this, chest banging thing, and sparks can fly, so.
Yeah, so to me it sounds like it's a difference between being empowered and acting from a place of empowerment, or being disempowered and then just lashing out in that adrenal response to fight or
Exactly,
run away.
and we can't do that if we're adrenalized.
Right.
That's why they tell boxers not to get angry when they're boxing, because they lose fine motor control. They, the first guy that gets really angry in a fight loses because he loses his timing. Yeah.
All right. So, what is emotional intelligence? What does that mean?
I think of emotional intelligence as, well, there's two parts to it. Basically, it means being a grown-up. Right, that's the short version. But in the West, I think of it as two parts. One of them is the ability to navigate our adrenal response, to respond rather than reacting, to see things from other people's perspective rather than just our own, and to have social skills in the world. But also, I think it involves having the model for a healthy psyche. Like, what does it mean to be an emotionally healthy human being? And none of us ever really get there. We're working on it constantly. So we all, make mistakes, fly off the handle, lose our cookies. That's fine. But my aspiration is to become the best version of me I can be, and to become a healthy human being. What does that mean? What kind of person do I want to see in the mirror?
To be a healthy human being personally, but also be able to relate with other human beings in a healthy way.
Good social skills, exactly. Yeah. So those are sort of nebulous ideas, but that's kind of my take on emotional intelligence. I'm sure there's books out there that give a more detailed breakdown of that. So emotional intelligence is crucial for, especially in work relationships or in romantic friendships. We need to be able to respond without reacting, and we need to be able to read the subtitles of our environment.
Now, your relationship sanctuary, is that a model of how to have emotional intelligence with yourself and others, or is that something
Well, I
different?
think it's a little bit different. It's a relationship sanctuary involves a lot of emotional intelligence, but it's something that my partner and I have come up with. It's a model for a healthy relationship. Like in the West, how does a healthy relationship function? So a relationship sanctuary consists of two different aspects. There's two personal sanctuaries. Each person has a personal sanctuary. And outside of that, there's the relationship sanctuary. Okay? So as far as a personal sanctuary goes, I'm a sovereign being, and my partner is a sovereign being. And we recognize each other as sovereign. We don't own each other. We can't really ultimately control each other. All we can do is honor each other and take care of ourselves within the personal sanctuary. Okay? So within a personal sanctuary, I have my sovereignty, and she has hers. She has her personal sanctuary, her sovereignty. I also know my core values. I know what's really important to me. So without knowledge of my core values, I don't know when a boundary's been crossed. I don't know when I'm in the wrong relationship. I have to know all my core values. And those are the things that are most important to me in my life. And my core values may be different than yours. They may be different than Jody's.
What are some examples of core values?
Core values would be, I need to have a partner who can fight without blaming.
Okay.
Some people, it doesn't bother them if their partner blames when they're fighting. They get really loud families and they yell and they curse each other and stuff, and that just they're Teflon, it flows right off. And for me, that doesn't work. So I have a core value of, I need my partner to be able to get really angry with me without slinging crap. It's just one. So
and one of my core values is I need to interact with people who can provide radical honesty, so I can say the truth to them without sugarcoating it or avoiding, and I want them to be the same with me. So that's one of my core values.
Yeah. And then a question with that would be, what would be a deal breaker for that value? What does it mean if they can't? So do you mean that you can be radically honest and they don't get hurt?
Right. So for me, like, I just want us to be radically honest with each other, and then engage in our relationship around that radical honesty. So if they get hurt with the radical honesty, then that's when we have the conversation about that, and that's when we establish boundaries about, like, how do we want to be radically honest, how do we want to approach each other. But for me, just like truth telling and radical honesty is super important.
Awesome. So radical honesty is a core value. What I'm asking you is, how do you know if you're with a person where it's not a fit for you? What does it mean if they can't handle it? Does it mean that they don't react to it, or that they don't get angry, or that they don't lash out at you?
For me, it just means they opt into it, right? Like,
okay.
For me, radical honesty, as far as in my experience, radical honesty is a skill that needs to be developed and learned. And so, yes, radical honesty is going to bring up emotions and anger and reactions and stuff like that. But so for me, it's about the opt-in. Like, I'm opting in with you to practice radical honesty.
Okay,
and
you're conscious opt-in.
If we, right. Conscious opt-in, and then whatever happens, if it's reactions or anger or whatever, that's just part of our relationship.
So a deal breaker for you would be somebody who's not willing to opt into radical honesty. Awesome, great,
correct,
cool. Great. So so that would be a core value. For some people, monogamy is a core value. For some people, not having their partner even flirt is a core value. For some people, monogamy is not a core value. Or flirting, they love it when their partner flirts because they get to go home with them. So,
or for some people, a core value can just be like, I need to be with somebody who's wealthy, or I need somebody that has a nice body and is beautiful.
Yeah, or somebody who doesn't drink, or somebody who does drink, or somebody who, whatever the core values are. So when we know our core values, we can then move towards, we start to have a good idea of what our boundaries are. So those are core values. Another aspect of a personal sanctuary is accountability and self-confrontation. If I screw up, I own it. I basically say, yeah, I'm sorry, I apologize, I was out of line there. How can I make this better? So
What's self-confrontation? How does that look?
Self-confrontation is, Dave, you screwed up.
So that's coming from you, not
It's coming from me to me,
else.
right? Yeah, no, I'm talking to myself. Dave, you screwed up.
Okay.
Right?
Without judgment and without guilt, just...
Yeah, hopefully without guilt and judgment, but a recognition that I did something because one of my personal values is integrity. And integrity means doing what I say I'm going to do. And if I say I'm going to agree, I have clear agreements with you, and I break one of those agreements for whatever reason, I own it, and I strive to do better next time.
Cool. Self-confrontation.
Self-confrontation, accountability, and then clear agreements. So what are the rules in this relationship? What agreements do we have? I really need you, or I really want you to wear red and go to church with me on Sunday, or I really need to have sex twice a week, or I really need you to cook for me, I really need you to do the dishes, whatever. Or I really want, I should say. What are the agreements? These are the things I want. I may not get them, but this is what I want. And then and it's always put out as a request. It's never a demand. Let's just say we have agreements in our relationship. I'm home taking care of the kids, you're out bringing in the bacon. So I have a desire for $5,000 a month so I can raise the family well and you're out working. Well, if, say, two months in a row you bring home $4,000, I can say, look, I really need, or I really want you to bring home $5,000 a month, because otherwise this isn't going to work here. What can we do to fix this? As opposed to, you must bring home $5,000 a month or I'm out of here. Now you can say that, that's a demand, but things are best framed as requests. And then if over 6 months, it goes down to $3,500, $4,000 every month, then we get a problem. Then I might say, and it's not even a demand. It's not like you have to do this. It's like, if you don't do this, I'm going to have to go. That's not a demand. That's a consequence. Because this is what I need, and it's down to a core value.
Okay.
So demand is, would you pick up, a request is, would you be willing to pick up your socks? A demand is, pick up your socks.
Okay. Okay, what's the part about self-soothing?
Self-soothing is when we've been wounded. If there's, if I'm triggered and if I'm in an adrenal state and I'm triggered in my relationship, I want to get out of my frog brain and into my frontal lobe, so I need to settle. So if there's always wounding in relationships, there's always pain, there's always emotional pain. We're never going to have a significant, deep emotional relationship where there's not pain. So in order to navigate that pain, oftentimes there's a need to self-soothe. I mean, there's a lot of scientific evidence that even infants will self-soothe. So we need to learn to do that consciously in order to keep our adrenal stress down, but also in order to just take care of ourselves.
So infants will self-soothe by sucking their thumb or crying or rocking. How do adults do it?
I do it, well, I mean, you might do it by any way that makes you feel like, so you might do yoga. What I'll do is I'll just tend to withdraw for a bit and just remind myself of why I'm in the relationship, why I'm doing what I'm doing, what my mission is around work. I'm self-soothing, like if I don't get a job I wanted. I really wanted this job and it hurts and my pride is wounded. That hurts. I can go into a state where I'm sort of neurologically self-soothing, where I'm relaxing around the pain. We'll talk about this later in Shenpa. But I'm just allowing myself to go inside and just to take care of myself.
Okay, so there's self-soothing that's beneficial to you, but then there's also self-soothing that's not beneficial to you. So for instance, some people, when they get hyperadrenalized, they're stressed, they'll go take a bath, or they'll go do yoga, or they'll do some deep breathing, or they'll take a walk. Some people will start to emotionally eat and do self-destructive things. They'll go drink, they'll take drugs, they'll overeat, they'll do those sorts of things.
That's an unhealthy strategy, yeah.
So there's healthy self-soothing and then there's unhealthy self-soothing.
Right. So in order to create a really strong personal sanctuary, we need all these pieces. We need self-soothing, sovereignty, core values. We also need the ability to, for me, is to be transparent. So if I'm with my partner, I need to let her know what's going on in me. Yeah, and and around things that are important.
What does that look like?
If I'm resentful about something that she did and I don't speak it, without blaming, but if I don't speak it, if I own it, I claim it, this is my stuff or whatever, but, I'm still resentful about this. That's transparency. Or I'm in shame about this. Or, like when I get into shame, I get angry. And when I'm angry, I have to say, okay, what's underneath the anger? There's a wounding, there's a shame, whatever, rather than just lashing out. So if I feel the anger, even if I don't act on it, I'm looking underneath and I'm finding the shame, and then I'll speak that. Oh, I'm actually angry because I was ashamed or I was embarrassed or whatever that is.
So transparency is as simple as saying the thing, right? Like saying how you're feeling, saying, even just like saying what happened to you, and instead of keeping it all hidden inside. And
the level of transparency depends on the relationship. I don't have to say to my partner, everybody that I'm attracted to. I mean, we're attracted to all kinds of people out in the world, But if it's an attraction I'm obsessing around, or if there's something important happening that is going to impact the relationship, I want to speak that. That's my level of transparency. All the important things, every single one gets spoken.
So in healthy relationships, you don't wait for your partner to come ask you, like, are you attracted to anyone else, or what's going on with you? You could ask, but transparency is you giving that up.
Ideally, what we'll do is we'll ask if they're a withhold. Do you have a withhold? Are there any withholds? We do that every other day or so. Any withholds? And then, and sometimes I have to dig and go, oh yeah, there was something I was kind of withholding, and then I'll speak it.
Okay, so there's a way to incorporate a practice into your relationship to encourage transparency.
Yeah, and a lot of times it's stuff we don't want to hear. I don't want to hear. I don't want to hear it. But you know what? When she speaks her truth to me over and over again, I can trust her. Because I know if something really big comes up, we're going to deal with it on the table clearly, and we're going to build a relationship from that.